There's a gardener's secret that most people learn too late. A rose bush with too many branches doesn't produce more flowers. It produces weaker ones. The roots are overwhelmed, the energy is scattered, and the whole plant slowly suffocates itself. Not from lack of sunlight, not from bad soil, but from the weight of everything it's trying to sustain at once. Your life works the exact same way. Right now, you're carrying habits that feel harmless, routines that feel like just the way you are, patterns you've had for so long they've stopped having a name, and those habits are quietly, systematically redirecting every drop of energy, focus, and creative power you have away from the thing that actually matters to you. You're not failing because you lack talent. You're not stuck because you lack opportunity. You are being slowly drained by invisible habits that nobody warns you about, and most of them are disguised as productivity, self-improvement, or just being realistic. What I'm about to share is called the pruning method, and by the time we're done, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. Stay with me, because habit number 3 is the one most high-achieving people are completely blind to, and it's probably the one costing you the most. Most content about habits tells you what to add, read more, wake up earlier, meditate, exercise, build, stack, optimize. The entire self-improvement industry is obsessed with addition, but there is a reason elite athletes taper before a race. There is a reason world-class composers go silent before their greatest works. There is a reason the most productive periods in many people's lives often follow some kind of forced removal, a move, a breakup, a loss, that strip their life back to its essential structure. Subtraction is a technology, and most people have never used it deliberately. The brain has a finite reservoir of what researchers call executive resources, the neural fuel behind decision-making, focus, and willpower. Every habit running in the background of your life is drawing from that reservoir, whether it's useful or not. Every unexamined routine costs something. Every low-value pattern you've normalized is quietly charging rent on cognitive real estate you need for something far more important. The pruning method isn't about becoming a minimalist. It's about becoming deliberate. It's about identifying the 7 specific categories of habit that neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and longitudinal research consistently show to be the most destructive to long-term performance and meaning, and giving you the clarity to cut them. Let's go through them one by one. Habit 1. Ambient consumption. The first habit to kill is what psychologists call ambient consumption. This is the passive intake of content that has no defined purpose, scrolling without destination, autoplay without selection, background noise that's technically informational but cognitively indistinguishable from static. Here's the neuroscience most people don't know. Your default mode network, the brain's so-called resting system, is not actually resting when you're scrolling. It's processing, it's tagging, it's storing fragments. And research from the University of California, San Francisco shows that creative insight, problem solving, and long-term memory consolidation all depend on genuine idle time. Time when the brain is not receiving new input. Ambient consumption doesn't just waste time. It colonizes your mind's repair windows. Every hour of purposeless content you consume is an hour your subconscious could have been processing your own life, your own ideas, your own unsolved problems. The fix isn't digital detox. It's intentional consumption. You decide in advance what you're consuming and why. Everything else becomes signal for a habit that needs pruning. Habit 2. Social comparison disguised as inspiration. Habit 2 is one of the most insidious because it comes dressed as motivation. You tell yourself you're researching. You tell yourself you're staying informed. You tell yourself that watching someone else build what you want to build is keeping you connected to the dream. But there's a difference, a neurologically measurable difference between inspiration and comparison. Inspiration activates, comparison contracts. Research published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that upward social comparison, measuring yourself against people performing better than you, consistently triggers threat responses in the prefrontal cortex. Not motivation, threat, the same neurological signature as physical danger. Your body responds to watching someone else's success in certain psychological conditions as though your own survival is being challenged. And here's the real damage. Chronic social comparison rewires what's called your reference point for success. When your baseline keeps shifting towards someone else's highlight reel, your own genuine progress stops registering as progress. You stop feeling the reward of your own forward movement because you're always measuring from someone else's ceiling. If a person in your feed consistently leaves you feeling less than you felt before you opened the app, That is not inspiration. That is a habit disguised as one, and it is slowly killing your ability to believe in your own trajectory. If you're recognizing yourself in any of this, subscribe right now because we're going deeper into the habits most psychology content never names. What's coming in the next 4 is going to reframe things you've been doing your entire life. Don't leave. Habit 3. Performative preparation. This is the habit that most high achievers are completely blind to and is the most expensive one on this list. Performative preparation is the activity that looks like working toward a goal, but is functionally designed to avoid the most frightening part of pursuing it, actual. Research more courses before starting the business. Redesign the workspace before writing the book. Follow 20 more experts before launching the podcast. Organize the notes before beginning the project. Prepare to prepare. This pattern has a neurological signature. The brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, activates when a goal involves genuine risk of failure, judgment, or rejection. Preparation delivers a workaround. It allows you to feel the identity of someone actively pursuing a goal, without requiring you to cross the threshold where failure becomes real. Dr. Fushia Sirois at the University of Sheffield found that this form of behavioral avoidance, which she identifies as a subtype of procrastination, is strongly correlated with what she calls future self disconnection, the inability to viscerally connect with who you are becoming, rather than who you are right now. When the future self feels abstract, the risk of failing them feels manageable. So you stay in preparation, which is comfortable, rather than action, which is real. The tell is simple. Ask yourself honestly, is there any action you could take right now toward this goal that would make it real and visible to the world? If yes, and you're doing anything other than that action, you are performing preparation. And it is a habit that must be pruned. Habit 4. Low stakes urgency. Habit 4 is what I call low stakes urgency, and it is perhaps the most socially celebrated destructive habit on this list. This is the compulsive filling of your day with tasks that feel urgent and are genuinely unimportant. Emails answered within minutes of arrival. Notifications cleared immediately. Small administrative tasks handled the second they appear. The inbox at zero. The to-do list of things that were never actually going to move the needle. Researcher Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine has documented that after every interruption, every context switch to a low-value task, the human brain requires an average of 23 minutes to return to deep cognitive engagement. 23 minutes per interruption, not per day, per interruption. But beyond the time cost, there is a dopamine cost. Every small task completed delivers a micro-reward. The brain's striatum releases a tiny pulse of satisfaction. Check, done, next. And over years of this pattern, the brain recalibrates. It begins to crave the frequency of small completions rather than the depth of large ones. It becomes structurally biased toward the manageable, the goal you actually care about. The book, the business, the creative project, the health transformation is not manageable. It's hard and long and requires sustained engagement with discomfort. A brain optimized by years of low-stakes urgency is neurologically unprepared for that task, not because it can't do it, because it's been trained not to. Habit 5. Identity protective cynicism. Habit 5 might be the most painful one to hear. Identity protective cynicism is the habit of preemptively dismissing possibilities as naive, unrealistic, or delusional in order to protect yourself from the vulnerability of genuinely wanting them. You've heard this voice. Maybe you've spoken it. The friend who says, "That's not how the industry works." The family member who calls enthusiasm getting ahead of yourself. The internal narrator who translates hope into foolishness before it can fully form. Research from Professor Dan Kahan at Yale Law School, developed primarily around political psychology but applicable across domains, shows that when a belief or possibility threatens our existing identity, we become motivated reasoners. We don't evaluate the evidence objectively. We search for evidence that confirms the threat, that validates the dismissal, that protects us from having to revise who we believe we are. For someone whose identity includes, "I'm realistic, I'm not one of those naive people," hope itself becomes the threat. Every person who succeeds against the odds is evidence of an uncomfortable possibility. So the habit defends itself by curating the evidence. It finds the failures. It emphasizes the exceptions. It calls itself wisdom, while it is really just protection. The cost is enormous. Identity protective cynicism doesn't just limit what you attempt. Research from Stanford's Social Cognitive Neuroscience Lab shows it actually suppresses counterfactual thinking. the brain's ability to imagine genuinely different outcomes. In other words, it literally reduces your capacity to conceive of a different life. The habit doesn't just make you dismissive. Over time, it makes you unable to imagine. Habit 6. Emotional outsourcing. Habit 6 is emotional outsourcing, and it is one of the most quietly corrosive patterns a person can run. Emotional outsourcing is the consistent practice of regulating your internal state through external stimulation rather than internal processing. You feel anxious, you scroll. You feel restless, you eat. You feel uncertain, you text someone. You feel overwhelmed, you open a new tab, start a new project. Look for the next thing that might feel like a solution to a feeling you never actually sat with. This isn't weakness, it's learned behavior, and modern environments are specifically engineered to reward it. Every platform, every app, every food delivery service is optimized to intercept the gap between discomfort and resolution before you can close it yourself. But here's what the research shows. Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA has documented that labeling emotions, the act of sitting with a difficult feeling and articulating it accurately, reduces activation in the amygdala and increases prefrontal cortex engagement. In plain language, naming your discomfort literally reduces its neurological intensity and activates the part of your brain responsible for strategic thinking. Every time you outsource instead of process, you skip the most powerful natural regulatory tool your nervous system has, and over time, like any unused capability, it atrophies. The emotional bandwidth for sitting with uncertainty, which is where every meaningful goal lives, quietly disappears. Habit 7. The maintenance illusion. The final habit is the subtlest, and in many ways, it is the most important. The maintenance illusion is the belief that sustaining your current level of functioning constitutes a reasonable default. Maintaining, staying consistent, not losing ground, keeping things together. Here's why this is a habit worth pruning. Research on neuroplasticity, specifically the work of Michael Merzenich at the University of California, San Francisco, consistently shows that the brain is not a static organ. It is constantly reorganizing based on use. Neural pathways that are regularly activated strengthen, those that are not thin. This means there is no biological neutral. You are not maintaining. At every moment, you are either building capacity or losing it. The neural infrastructure for learning, creativity, emotional regulation, and cognitive flexibility is either being reinforced by challenge and growth, or it is being slowly dismantled by the absence of them. The maintenance illusion is dangerous because it feels responsible. It feels like sustainability. But for a brain, staying comfortable is the same as moving backward. And for a life, choosing the known over the challenging year after year compounds into something most people only name in retrospect, when they look back and realize the gap between who they are and who they meant to become. The 7th habit to kill is the belief that staying the same is safe. It never was. Here's what the pruning method asks of you: not to add more, not to optimize harder, not to build a more elaborate system of accountability and tracking and measurement. It asks you to look honestly at what's already running, the ambient noise consuming your mind's repair windows, the comparisons masquerading as motivation, the preparation that has replaced action, the small, urgent tasks colonizing your deep work hours, the cynicism protecting you from the discomfort of hope, the outsourced emotional regulation that has eroded your capacity for uncertainty, and the maintenance illusion that has convinced you that stillness is safety. None of these habits announced themselves. They arrived quietly, one adaptation at a time, each of them logical in the moment, each of them reasonable in isolation. And together, over years, they have been redirecting every unit of energy and attention you have away from the life you actually want to build. The rosebush doesn't need more branches. It needs the right one. Cut what's stealing light from what matters. Give your roots something worth growing toward. That's not discipline. That's not willpower. That's the one act that changes everything before you've changed anything else. Subscribe